One of our key suppliers has a program called Rethink that wasn't available 12 months ago. So we would go into a typical business and install desks, chairs, but then we'd have quite a lot of protective corners, packaging, sometimes some surplus panels, sometimes some waste that basically is generated from that job. And it would be typical that a customer might say, "Can you clear our existing office before you bring in the new kit?" And then we are now working on what we call a Rethink program, which effectively every single item that we take out of that customer office premises, all the packaging waste, the protective corners, goes back into waste bags that are collected via a closed loop with that supplier manufacturer. And so nothing goes to landfill. Now, that wouldn't have been possible 18 months ago, 12 months ago.
Welcome to the Impact Files podcast. I'm your host, Ned Wells, and I'm really pleased you're here.
Welcome to the Impact Files podcast. And in this episode, we are delighted to be joined by Darren Aston, MD and owner of Aston and James. Darren, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Really nice to have you here. Let's start off then with an introduction to yourself, to Aston and James, and to the work that you do.
Thank you. My name is Darren Aston, as you said. I'm the MD and owner of a family business. We're now 35 years old, just in June 2025. I work with a number of my siblings. I'm one of 8, born into the business at a very young age of 17, straight out of sixth form, working with my brother who'd had 8 years of forming the business Aston and James. With a gentleman with a surname James, but he left with it in the early stages. So it was very much Aston Office Supplies, but due to the nature of branding and recognizing the name, Alan, my brother at the time, kept the name as Aston and James, and I became a sort of a young apprentice under his wing, under his guidance, and developed my knowledge for office supplies, which was pretty much what I was entering into at that time, and grew my knowledge of products, supply chain, and sort of responsibly supporting Alan to try and grow the business and make a bit of a difference within the family. Many years on, probably a lot of water under the bridge, but I took on the business from him in April 2012 to take it forward, and with the help of my other brothers and sisters that support me as a sort of senior leadership team, and 5-6 other members of the team that have been now here over 25 years.
Wow, I'm intrigued that you're such a family-orientated family business. So can I ask you, which of your siblings are involved?
Yes.
Within the business?
I was baby number 4. Alan was the eldest. There was two daughters that were older. One has been within the business in the past and came on as a workwear branded goods manager and did 5 years in the business, and then went back to childcare.
Right.
Work. And my younger sister, so child number 5, my sister Cheryl, she's our business development director. My younger brother, number 6, Craig, he's our furniture director and logistics manager. Well, furniture and logistics director, sorry, promoted from manager. And then the baby of the bunch, number 8, she heads up now our workwear and branded goods department. And Gavin, number 7, who I missed, did work for us for a period of time and went on to pastures new. So out of 8 siblings, 6 of us have worked in the business at any one time.
That's fantastic. And in terms of a sort of simple description of what the business does.
Very simply, we help organizations make their workplaces work. Had to reimagine ourselves really post-COVID, and feels like although we've been going for 35 years, the last 5 years we're a new business. We've almost had, almost like feels like a startup all over again. New normals, new conditions, new requirements, and as a business we've had to innovate or evaporate, and very proud of the things that we've done over the last few years to try and make a difference in multiple ways.
And you're working across quite a broad range of products. I'm looking at the website now. There's furniture, branded goods, stationery, etc., etc.
Yes, our strap line is everything for the workplace, and we mean that. We sort of wear it on our chest with pride, and we do what we say and we say what we do in terms of trying to help the streamlining the procurement of our customers' businesses by helping them with anything that they require for their workplace. So the value proposition is to be an extension of their business and
Yeah.
offer a tailored workplace solution, but with a personal touch.
And in terms of your customers, I mean, how large are you as a business, and are there any sort of well-known brand names that you work for?
Yeah, I mean, we work with lots of different verticals. Education's been an area that we've been strong on from our origins of office supplies and paper.
Mm,
And then we work with contracting businesses such as the likes of Dark and Taylor, big
okay.
apprenticeship business based in Longhambra, Oxfordshire based, very similar values and know the senior leadership team very well there. We help them with their work, with their furniture. And that's
Mm,
spun off into more warehouse, should we say, facilities type supply customers that we work with.
yeah,
So manufacturing, we have, if I do a quick sort of sense check on the numbers, I think, yeah, we've got 181 customers in manufacturing and 86 in construction. So that for us is quite um, an aligned area for the types of products and services that we are
mm.
offering customers with PPE, workwear, ergonomics, and pretty much, anything that supports their team.
And are there any stats that you can share with us about how large Aston and James is as a business in terms of, I don't
Yeah,
know, numbers of?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, so number of employees, we're 15 number of employees,
Mhm.
of which, out of that 15, 7, 8 of us have done over 25 years, and a couple are coming up for 20.
Mm.
So yeah, there's probably 2/3 of the team are well into the 20 years plus, supporting us in our journey and in our changing world. And we're this year by turn of turn of December, we will be just about 2.8 million for the calendar year.
That's a very satisfying number. Fantastic. That's a really interesting introduction. Thank you so much, Darren. I'm going to hand over to Ruth.
Thanks, Ned. Super interesting to hear about the business, Darren. Thank you. I think what's interesting is in all of that intro, it kind of alludes to the fact that you're a responsible business and you're well on your way. But obviously, some people might think office supplies and not necessarily think sustainability. So, what's the story behind Aston and James being a responsible business? And I guess what's the business case for you and your team as well?
Yeah, I mean, a key thing for us since we've, I suppose, had to do a bit of a reevaluation of our audience and our wants and needs of those customers and aligning to that. And here, 2 ears, one mouth, listening and learning from the sort of post-COVID workplace requirement, people working remotely, people wanting different products and services. So we looked at it as sort of trying to make a difference. So looking at it in different ways of sustainability, innovative, less wasteful, more charitable. We try to live and breathe those elements through eco delivery days. So one thing that we learned relatively reflectively during the COVID time was that customers needed certain things urgently, but then as workplaces didn't have the occupancy that they once had, the urgency level on some of the sort of standard workplace supplies and office supplies wasn't a next day requirement. So we worked with business parks to reduce the number of vans that were delivering into those areas by talking to them about eco delivery days, and that's something that's evolved really over the last 2-3 years, and really now we've embedded that as a sort of a default rather than next day DNA, must panic, must deliver, has to go. So that's helped us both sides of the sort of equation from a point of view of supply chain management, delivery, emissions, touch points, and helped our customers coordinate what they want on a more less often bigger order, which is reflectively better for us in order averages and things like that. So we're seeing an increase in that, and then really again through product awareness, we try to communicate a transparency of what is available. So there was a case of concern around greenwashing with product listings 2 years ago. So
Mm,
2.5 years ago. So we took it upon ourselves as a business to go through our 20,000 plus office product lines
mhm.
and look to the data that was there and help get support and ask the questions which products were what we would call an A&J approved product. So then we launched our own page with a short listing of products that we felt our customers were asking for more often, but our team needed to have that information available to them to make them more efficient in suggestions. And then really put a fair statement page up, and show that with some Aston and James sort of positioning, that these products are products that we want to put a spotlight to because of their origins of source or type, or are they recyclable? Are they biodegradable? Are they the various elements of that A&J approvedness that's sort of available on our website to view and understand. And we've bolstered that now and added, I think we might be at something like 5,000 products now. We started off at a modest 800 lines. So yeah, it's grown.
I'm really interested to know, Darren, where does the desire to be sustainable come from? And I guess what's in my head is it sounds as if it's very much an important value to yourself rather than sort of being driven by the market and you responding to the market. And I guess that makes me think, is this desire a family thing? Have you had complicated discussions with your siblings going, yes, no, shall we do this? I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I think it comes from a embedded interest in trying to do the right thing.
Mm,
And I think that, most people know us as being, I'm not saying that being a family business makes you more personable, more caring, but I just think that there is a little bit more joined upness in how we've been brought up by our parents,
mm,
and how we work with each other. We're very morally grounded. We're very humble, and I'm not saying that that doesn't come with its own challenges. With siblings saying, "I think we should do this," no, we shouldn't do that. We should do this. They keep it simple, but no, I don't think adding these things to what we're doing just feels right, and trying to add
oh,
some simplicity to it. Also, I've been very aware of B Corp movement and talking and listening to people in Oxfordshire and understanding where certain seminars and just listening really to what's going on
mm,
in
mm,
Oxfordshire,
mm, mm.
and just understanding different movements that are very much, if you don't want to be left behind, but at the same time we're doing these things, and we now need to try and find more of a way of shining a spotlight and trying to share that story, share that journey, and getting people involved, and us being involved in other people's journeys. So we're on the same track, we're in the same lane.
Interesting.
Yeah, I loved what you said about it being almost like a two-way conversation that you've been having, and it seems like these actions have come about quite organically, which is really nice to hear. And I guess it also means that, they're thought through and they're not just sort of, oh, I read someone's doing this, so we better do that to keep up. Nice to hear.
Yeah, I mean,
Kind of leads. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
no, I was just saying, a lot of it, some of it is aspirational, but you have to start from
Mm,
an aspirational standpoint and say,
absolutely.
what small difference could we make, and how does that hopefully snowball in a positive way?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, Kind of led nicely into my next question, which was I was going to ask about what it means to your kind of clients and customers, but I guess you touched on that because you were hearing from them that you obviously that they wanted more sustainable options, I guess. So that kind of answers that. So I wanted to flip it slightly and maybe talk about what does it mean to your supply chain, because obviously you must have quite a big one, and I want to say potentially complicated one. And you
Yeah,
mentioned B Corp as well, and I know you have to do quite a bit of due diligence and digging around in your supply chain. So would really like
yeah.
to hear about the feedback you've had from your suppliers, and whether you feel that that's been a two-way conversation as well.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like when we started this a few years ago, before we started our B Corp impact assessment, that our bigger suppliers were really slow to move. It felt that there was things that they were doing, but there was a little bit more complexity in a larger business. Being a small business, we can make quick decisions and get on with things, albeit our B Corp impact assessment. And we are 2.5 years into it, but we wanted to be aware of our points where we're at, and if it can be measured, it can be improved. That's obviously something that sits with me. And we're very statistical in what we try and do to move the improvement, and then having things in place. So if we didn't have something in place like a green council, which we didn't really have before we started the B Corp impact assessment, asking our supply chain, we have I probably, broadly speaking, if I look at a bit of a head count of customers and suppliers, so we've probably got, on an annualized basis, circa about 800 active customers. in a year on a consistent-ish basis.
Mm.
And then our supply chain wise, we've probably got growing suppliers, but a growing supplier list of probably about 35, 40, and of which probably 7 are probably key to us. So those ones deliver the majority of goods, and the rest are pretty much on specials or one-offs or inquiries that we can support customers with that tailored workplace solution,
Mm.
and being a procurement extension of their business. So yeah, the complexity of going to some of those suppliers and saying, supplier matrix questions and origins of product and doing our scope free, and that's been tricky and still continues to be tricky. I'd say that we've still got points to score for our B Corp assessment in getting that evidence to come through. So it is a bit of a slow churn, but they're more on it now than they were 2.5, 3 years ago.
Mm.
I feel that that movement is coming at a bit more of a pace, and it's a bit more available to us than perhaps what it was.
Interesting. So you feel that your suppliers in general are a bit more receptive to these things than maybe
Yes.
they were when you sort of entered the business?
Yeah, because we've had certain categories of what we do. I mean, a large part of what our business is now is furniture and furniture kit, from desk chairs to screens, storage, office environment improvements. One of our key suppliers has a program called Rethink that wasn't available 12 months ago. So we would go into a typical business and install desks, chairs, but then we'd have quite a lot of like corners of protective corners, packaging, sometimes some surplus panels, sometimes some waste that it basically is generated from that job. And it would be typical that a customer might say, "Can you clear our existing office before you bring in the new kit?" And then
Mm.
we are now working on what we call a rethink program, which effectively every single item that we take out of that customer office premises, or the packaging waste, the protective corners, goes back into waste bags that are collected via a closed loop with that supplier manufacturer.
Mm.
And so nothing goes to landfill. Now, that wouldn't have been possible 18 months ago, 12 months ago. It's really over the last 12 months that's really helped us. And yeah, I mean, some customers want to manage their own waste streams on site. It's just part of their way of working. But majority of our customers would want us to handle the waste and be responsible for it.
So what actually happens to that old furniture that's bagged up and returned to the supplier? What do they then
So
actually do with it?
they'll use any of the corners, the protective corners for the desks and the kit. They'll use those again if they can, if they're in good condition, which I'd like
Mm.
to think they generally are. Some of the wood waste that might not be able to be reused will go into a factory burner for heating, and
Right.
some of the fabric cut-offs will go into potentially soft seating that gets re-churned into producing, like, not foam itself, but just insulation to some of those products. So yeah, so we have got a whole page on Rethink because it was something we communicated on a blog recently. So our customers wouldn't be fully aware of it, but we do feel it's a sort of a value add to our proposition, and something we should be talking about and sharing and explaining, and not being just something that we might get asked for.
Wow. And in terms of your customers, you kind of mentioned that they were, starting some of these sustainability conversations, but I guess what I'm trying to ask is, to what extent do your business decisions based on sustainability drive near-term business results? So, do you take these decisions because you know that the market are asking for more sustainable solutions? And do you find that that's fitted quite nicely with your financial business objectives, or is there sometimes sort of clashes?
Yeah, I think there are some natural clashes because the things that we're trying to do, a lot of it is done with good intention, goodwill, and good outcomes, but there is a commercial element to a small
Mm.
business and what we can do. But sometimes we might be a little bit restricted by, or there's some controllables that we don't have outside of our own business. But in terms of alignment and how we make those decisions, I'd like to think now that we've got a green council, we are making more conscientious decisions around packaging, what goes out to the customers, what comes back. Things like recycling toners, making sure that we do that. Again, it's one of our closed loop schemes that we've run for. That's one of the things we've run for many, many years. I mean, that's probably now pushing 15, 20 years. We've been doing a recycling scheme on used and empty cartridges because our supply chain want those items back. Less of them now.
Mm.
People are printing less. It's paperless, not paper. It's paperless, not paper. And those decisions are just natural course of action because it's being driven by market demand, and we can be a point of difference with that. So yeah, I'd say we probably maybe that sounds probably maybe the likelihood of some of those things that we're doing is just it's more common now to us. It's more natural to us. So yeah, most of those things are considered two way. Or if you include our supply chain, really, it's three pronged.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Three tiered. Over to you, Ned.
Darren, you've mentioned a couple of times your Green Council, and I'd love to ask you, or I'd love to sort of dig down a bit further into the structures, the people, processes that you've put in
Yep.
place to support your desire to be sustainable as well as profitable.
Yeah. Well, we're not, as I mentioned, we're 15, so we're a pretty lean team. But
Mm.
out of that 15, we've got responsibilities in purchasing, accounts, logistics, dispatch, business development, marketing, and then we have sort of our B Corp lead, who's also my PA, who's helping to make sure we're being accountable to those measurements, those reports, those policies, and such likes. We also have
Mm.
who else is it that joins the conversation? I think, yeah, there's 7 of us in the team, 6 or 7 in total. And yeah, each one comes at it with a slightly different approach of their own role, responsibility, and certain actions that they were taken away from a previous chat. So for example, the eco delivery day switch on and turnout, that happened um, more complete. Let's say we managed to complete that and roll that out across our customer base back in sort of March, April time this year. Whereas we had trialed it in different zones and areas. So that was now coordinating van routes, making sure that's tied up with our logistics team so that the right deliveries are put out on the right days. If anything's urgent, we obviously treat it as urgent. Everything's important, but that's a lesson that we've learned over the course of rolling this out, is that there are urgents and obviously must do's in terms of requirement. From a marketing stance on it, making sure that we're communicating what we're doing and being
Yeah.
transparent about that, and and then from a business development, Cheryl would maybe speak on in terms of what our larger customers are asking when she sat down and been in front of them. This is what we want from a supplier, and this is what we would like you to have a look at for us. So whether that's workwear, recycled or from recycled materials, or from man-made, not man-made, from man-made fibers, from natural sources, all those kind of things, samples, visual examples of those types of garments and products that we're now
Mm.
putting out there, so we can then promote, showcase, share, case study. We've done a few more case studies. We're asking for more customer feedback for reviews, so that helps with some of the feedback we get for the Green Council improvements. And just any changes really that have happened in the last quarter in our supply chain or in the supply line, or if there's new products, what are they? Have we added them to our A&J approved area if they need to be updated? So yeah, there's a good spread of involvement. We've taken on recycled tape for packaging and sealing boxes and simple things like that. We've got stamps that we put on boxes: please reuse me, recycle me, or give me back.
Yeah.
And
Let,
so little things, they're only small things, but they all add up to something, because the amount of boxes that we're shifting has changed. I mean, I looked at it reflectively. Pre-COVID, 2017, 2018, we were shipping 26,000 orders a year, and now we're doing about 12. So, but it's a very different business to 6-7 years ago.
but that's still an awful lot of cardboard.
Yes.
I'd like to just sense check I've understood your Green Council, because what I think you've said is that you've got 7 people that sit on it, and it sounds to me like those are the sort of core business functions. And
Yeah.
is this a council that meets quarterly with all those?
Quarterly, yeah, we meet quarterly.
Okay,
Yeah, and we have notes and actions that are summarized, and some of
right.
those are progressed each. Well, some of them are being progressed each quarter. Some of them are staying on there for longer term
Yeah.
improvement and planning. But it is something that we are working through, and it is something that we need to show, not just the evidence, but just see the progression. Yeah.
And then when did this Green Council start, and was it your idea?
Well, it came off the B Corp impact assessment as a
Right.
suggestion. We also joined part of our industry makeup is we're a member of BOSS, which stands for British Office Services Supplies Federation, and
Right.
they're the authority body for our industry. We're a member of a group called Office Friendly, now known as Block. They've just merged with another entity, and they ran a program called Weaver, and there was different elements within the Weaver accreditation, which was DECRA, I think it's DECRA certified and audited. And we scored 4 out of 5 stars in the Weaver program, which is made up of different elements, similar to B Corp,
Right.
but a much, I would say, more on an ISO level to a degree. But
Mm.
we took 2 years to achieve that, and we got 4 out of 5 star status earlier this year. So that's helped us again progress with B Corp and just challenge the way that we're doing things internally and make those improvements over a period of time. And everybody sees
Fantastic.
I like to think that everybody sees the benefit in coming together and talking about those things, and not just talking about commercial numbers and KPIs and what we're reporting on for our roles and our responsibilities. Because really, part of our role now is to have some sort of green goal linked to our role, so that we're able to impact that on a more long-term basis, not just short-term quick wins.
And do you feel that the sort of green changes and developments you're making in the business, do they connect into the sort of financial sustainability and health of the business, or are they more kind of, we need to do this because it's the right thing from
Well,
an
I,
environmental
I
point of view?
Yeah, no, I think, from a commercial perspective, I mean, we've seen positive improvement in categories addressing what a customer wants and needs, and channeling that into, can we bring that on our van, on that delivery? Can we look at
Mm.
streamlining the supply chain and the procurement? There are a lot of soft
Mm.
costs in businesses in raising POs, and we've helped multiple customers with bringing on, say, the tea, the coffee, the toilet rolls, the hand towels, the workwear, the first aid kits, the defibs, the
Mm.
various supplies, the footwear. They were buying those products from somewhere. It might have been Amazon, and people buy for their own reasons via their own channels. But if we can give them a local option, and one that we feel we provide value, and the price
Yeah.
point is got to be there. It's not. I mean, we have to be competitive and we have to offer a brilliant service,
Mm.
but it's not always price driven. So that's
Sure.
something
Sure.
that's something that I'm feeling more and more proud of, that we can say, well, but they're not going to take it to the cupboard. They're not going to take it up 2 flights of stairs. They're not going to return the coats for the coat collections we do at Christmas, and help the homeless. And they're not going to collect their empty cartridges. They're not going to collect their non-confidential waste paper and
Mm.
recycle that through our channel. So there are lots of things that we do, and the Rethink program, and also just helping people reposition their furniture through charitable organisations such as
Mm.
goodthing.org, and people like that became known to us 4 or 5 years ago. So if we can't help, we obviously signpost things, but commercially it's helping our average order values. I mean, we've seen a 25% uplift on average order values this year, although it's been a 10% year on year order taken drop. Our average order
Yeah.
value has gone up 25%.
That is
Those-
that's a significant increase.
Yes, and it is. I'm not going to say it's down to one or two big orders. It's down to ultimately a collective focus on
Mm.
helping people streamline their supply chain, saving them time, energy, and hassle.
Ruth, over to you.
Right. So just thinking, yeah, so interesting, and also it's quite a nice message to know that business is doing such sustainable things and seeing such a big increase. Um, So yeah, I guess you've told us so many things, Darren, about things you're doing that have worked really well in terms of all your initiatives and the Rethink program through council, your approved list. And you might not have any, but I have to ask: have you had any challenges and things that haven't gone as well as you had hoped on this journey? And that could be, anything from something you're doing internally, suppliers, any sort of products, packaging,
Yeah.
yeah, anything you could share that's maybe, we'd like to frame it nicely as a learning rather than that went horribly wrong.
No, yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I have a saying that with myself and to my team: whenever we're perhaps not winning, we're learning. So if we're not winning, we're learning. We're not necessarily losing, because it can make you better, and you probably win more. You learn more from your losses, or you're ultimately not where you wanted to be. So we can hopefully recenter. But yeah, I mean, I'd say that there's a few things that perhaps with our get-togethers and the challenges that we have. We are a small business. We don't obviously have particularly big pockets of investment. So small gains, small movements, small changes make up a difference. But there is that there is that positioning or stress point when working with our customers to try and be competitive and trying to educate and support alternative products at a higher price point. That's a commercial challenge that won't go away until we get mass or more and more competitive pricing in from a green standpoint, or from a sustainable standpoint, or from a recycled standpoint, because it just costs more naturally to provide some of these items through our supply chain. And if we don't have the volume, we don't have the weight.
Mm.
Which is why we try and collaborate with our other resellers across the country. So it's not all about what weight we carry. Being a member of what was Office Friendly, now Block, we've got a joined up sort of consortium of weight behind us and support behind us that can drive the difference. And also being a member of Boss helps them lobby on our behalf to improve supply line, communication, transparency, information, data. It all again, it all adds up to something, even from a small standpoint. Whatever we can link up with and line up with, that's going to help us, because we're obviously stronger together than just being a one point sort of force in Oxfordshire, even though we're quite
Mm.
small. And I'd say also things like, things that we thought were going to be probably straightforward things to do. There's an internal cost, things like packaging. So we've considered taking totes, like you get your front door deliveries from your typical grocery shopping, and trying to work that through and seeing how many could we do that. What's could we roll that out? Is it something we could simply do? We haven't taken it off the table, but it's been something in the sort of locker, talked
Mm.
about from a point of view, can we do that in an effective way? And that's a work in progress. We've not been able to roll that out, and we've looked at different ways, but that was one of the reasons why we started stamping the boxes, to try and
Mm.
encourage customers to reuse, repurpose, recycle. Don't just chuck it away in the waste, because ultimately it has a life beyond a life. And those kind of things. Standard defaulting to just invoicing customers electronically. We don't really send anything out in the post now unless it's requested. So certain processes we've defaulted to
Mm.
be more efficient and help us. But it does have some challenges, because people obviously want what they want and they'll ask for things in a certain way. And we try and make that work for all. But yeah, I think the commercial costs and just the pace of the changes of products are now starting to come through.
Mm.
I feel it's been a bit of a long time coming, but I'm glad that we're a little bit ahead of that in terms of getting the A&J approved efforts live, and then customers seeing that we are trying to be very much green first or eco first on our website, and just putting those things bravely at the top, because people can sort by price, but we're actually trying
Mm.
to sort by position and by choice. And
I
again,
think this is really
yeah.
I was gonna say it's really interesting, because obviously I hadn't thought about it before you explained it, but you're actually sort of in the business of behavior change as well, aren't you? You're wanting people to filter by, maybe greener, or you want people to recycle their cardboard. And I can't think of a much more obvious way than literally stamping the box and saying, please put me in the recycling. And even then, you're still probably people are gonna encounter barriers, aren't they? So
Yeah.
yeah.
We try and repurpose what we can when it comes through from our supply chain. So, I mean, obviously, furniture comes in a box more often than not if it's been manufactured and protectively packed. We get certain office and workplace supplies and catering supplies in outers, and we try and reuse those outers, and then put an Aston and James recycled tape across the box and repurpose the box. So, we are practicing as we preach, and never want to preach, but just we're acting on influence, hopefully.
I think that what's been really interesting about talking to you on this, Darren, is we've had a number of episodes with people in service organizations, and the sort of role of marketing and communications is moderately straightforward and kind of relatively tactical quite often when we're talking to people. But I think in your business, which is a product business, you're in a very interesting kind of complex network of needing to have proper relationships with your suppliers, with your industry partners, with your customers, existing and prospective. And as Ruth says, you're really in the game of behavior change. So I'm not sure if I've got a question, but it's just fascinating hearing about how much communication you're really actively having to do.
Yeah, I think we have to again, look in the mirror and say, okay, what influence do we have on our day ahead and our customers in our conversations? We have to know a little bit about a lot. We have a lot of products, and therefore
Mm,
everything is a learning and an education. So we are probably in
mm,
the game of educating ourselves and sharing that knowledge and sharing that education of what we're finding out about products, about
mm.
different services, around improvements, around product types, ranges, whether it's um, one product to another. And we have to know a little bit about, not a lot, but if we can have
Yeah.
that in an area where we can have it as a bit of a library reference, and we're
Mm,
improving our stance on data, on information that we can share online and do it in real time.
mm.
That's the joined up bit in the background that we want, probably more improvement, more automation, and more support. Therefore, what we get asked, we can pass back up the supply chain, and
Sure.
vice versa. And that's probably where we've been at. It's a game of education, not game, sorry. It's a life of education. And
Yes.
yeah, it feels like, that is, you know, an important part of what we're about.
Fantastic. Over to you, Ruth.
So obviously, your business has been going for quite a long time and you've implemented so much stuff already. I'd be really interested to hear how you see the business evolving in the near term, any particular goals you've got over the next 12 months. I know you mentioned submitting your, B Corp impact assessments. I know that's on the radar, but have you got anything else coming up, I guess, in terms of business growth, but also in terms of the sort of responsible business area as well?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, evolution of the business. So it's always been innovate or evaporate with my sort of last 5 year headspace, and just sits with me. Anytime anyone challenges me on what's next, what's improvement, what's considered to go for in the new year or the next 5 years, I think we want to underpin sort of, I suppose, the message of becoming more consultative. Maybe that's where people come to us and say, look, you've been in the business still this amount of time, clearly got a lot of knowledge. We're blessed with the support I've got from a pretty grounded team that have been here for a long
Mm.
time, and change on top of change, and still wearing a t-shirt. um, but just being, data led. I said it's education. If we can have the bit information, and if anything can be measured and improved, if anything can be measured, it can be improved. And if we're very proactive, and I believe we are proactive as a business, because we want to be different and we want to be on the front foot, whatever
Mm.
that is, to our next sort of quarter discussions, and our next sort of layers of objectives and goals. We want our customers to be less transactional and more partnership based. So that's something, again, working on relationships and making sure we're extending that network within our customer business, because there will be well-being champions within those businesses. There will be sustainability teams or people. We need to know that we're talking and listening and ultimately working with those. So that's a wheel we need to grease, and just getting you guys to be very much on the front of that. Continue to consolidate, so customer supply chain. If we can be a go-to trusted source, buy less, buy better.
Mm.
That's certainly something, and I know my supply chain want that for us as well, because they want the same in terms of the link up. Yeah, and just probably continued investment in sort of people training and systems, and maybe bringing on some additional suppliers, but we will have a different way of vetting those suppliers, if that's the right word, qualifying those suppliers, because of the way that we've gone about B Corp impact assessment and what we've learned from the journey we've been on so far.
So is that generally a sort of direction of travel in your sector, Darren, where your suppliers are keen to sort of sell fewer units but higher quality?
I think it's fair to say, for me, the way I see it, obviously we get to know certain individuals within those businesses. They want to
Mm.
build a partnership with us, and I feel that when we're chatting, it is probably a little bit more two-way than just one way. But there is sometimes, depending on the direction of travel, or what the powers that be above those people that we speak to might be saying, that's when they get my words right, but they they want more business.
Yeah,
However, and I'm not saying they do it in a bad or a good way, but they do it in a way that obviously fits with them. It's got to fit with us.
sure,
It's a
sure.
bit, it's a jigsaw puzzle of pieces, and if the picture doesn't feel right, we don't go down that track. But we're if we're being supported and we feel that we're getting good commercial support and awareness of what's going on in our business and what our customers want, then there's an alignment piece that we don't necessarily need to go off track.
Sure.
I think everyone wants a compass and a direction of travel, and I think we're generally in the same lane, but people have different objectives, directives, and
Indeed.
we're not easily swayed, but we want partnerships. Yeah.
And I guess looking at the sort of the bigger picture in your sector, where do you hope things are going to be in maybe 10 years' time?
Probably more accountability and transparency with supply chain, so we can again make sure that's filtered through. We want to work with businesses that have got shareable green goals that we can help to achieve, make a difference. Probably less waste in how things are being handled, because we see a lot of that, unfortunately, in our type of work. There's still a reasonable amount of waste that we have to manage and support. Just continuous education and improvement.
And in terms of that kind of waste reduction and improved communication, are you seeing any kind of new systems being developed? I'm thinking IT kind of systems being developed to support and facilitate that in the sort of longer term.
Well, we're working on what can I call it, eco score report for customers in the new year. That's going to be something that we look to offer and provide based on number of drops, number of deliveries, emissions saved, based on how we've gone about delivering to them, and looking at that respectfully over perhaps compared to a previous year, or timeline comparison. If we can again collate the data on how many other suppliers they might have had, and if we've saved them from that, what number of deliveries have they taken? I mean, milk is a typical example from a relatable standpoint. We have a delivery every week. If we can change that, if we can add that in with something else and reduce that by a number, and that number might be greater, then we can offer an eco score to that customer on how effective our partnership has been.
Really interesting. Okay, to wrap up, one piece of advice for businesses that are pursuing sustainability and financial objectives at the same time.
Yeah, I wrote this one-liner down: don't chase perfection, because we haven't.
Yeah.
Chase progress that makes commercial sense, and make sure that that's being communicated all the way through your organization, up to the supply chain and through to your customers.
What a lovely way to finish off. That's really strong. That's lovely. Finally, Darren, how can people find out more about you and about Aston and James?
Yeah, well, we have our own website, so it's aston-james.co.uk. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me under Darren Aston, and conversations. I'm always happy to have a conversation. So please feel free to contact me through the website, through my email address, darren@aston-james.co.uk, or please pick up the phone.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Darren.
Thanks for joining us today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, and share it with your colleagues. For more about the podcast, about us, our marketing services, and our wider support for purpose-led organisations, please visit our website at theimpactfiles.co.uk.